Our next speaker has a talk entitled The AI Flywheel, a blueprint for self-improving systems, and it's Andreas Blumauer. He's the SVP for growth at Graphwise, and Graphwise is the company formed by the merger of Text, and this lighting is so weird, and semantic web company SWC. And as the founder of SWC and creator of the Pool Party Semantic Platform, I'm sure you recognize that, Andreas has been a driving force in advancing semantic AI, knowledge graph technologies, and retrieval augmented generation solutions. He's also authored the Knowledge Graph Cookbook, Recipes That Work. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Kim. Wonderful talk Phil has given. There are lots of connections to that. For instance, I wouldn't stand up here if Tim Berners-Lee from MIT wouldn't have invented the semantic web 25 years ago. That's one. And obviously, I'm also a little bit representing this interesting constellation, how transatlantic collaboration can finally come to, let's say, also an impact on the market. There was a lot of innovation going on in Europe back in the years. Text, the one half of Graphwise, was one of the pioneers with their graph database based on semantic web standards. Also us, me, founding the company back in the years, and then we came together and now working gladly together with Fox in the US, and this all makes a lot of sense. So this is a kind of the visualization of what I just said. So you see already it's a little bit more structured than just linear text, what I've started with, so it helps you already orientate yourself. For instance, you learn quickly, I love Wiener Schnitzel, that's one thing, because I'm based in Vienna. Graphwise is the company I'm now working for, SVP Growth. They are still CEO of semantic web company, technically speaking. That was the, and still is the developer and vendor of the Pool Party Semantic Suite. But we now have merged into Graphwise AI Suite, as said before, based on the semantic web standards. Tim Berners-Lee, one of those guys who really made that work. And now we see things coming together, and this is really exciting for the graph community. You know, we've been around for 20 years or so. Still lots of people, many people have thought, okay, those guys are really nerdy. So on the other side, this, statistical AI guys were really driving a lot of weight into the right direction. Now things come together. So I think the war is over. So the AI tribes now come finally together, and one of those elements is called GraphRag. Yeah, this is a really, for me, phonetically sounds really strange, but okay, GraphRag. And it drives a lot of really important strategic use cases in corporations. So what I also try to say here already is, I mean, if you want to automate relatively simple business processes, you probably don't need a knowledge graph. You can do it differently. But there are many really highly critical processes in corporations, like for instance when it comes to compliance intelligence or technical knowledge management. All that is definitely a great use case for spending a little bit more time on generating the foundation for your AI systems on top. So why is that? Because humans think and machines calculate, and this won't change in the next decades, not in 100 years, not in 1,000 years. Our lovely robots, which will help us to do household stuff and whatsoever. So there will be a lot of things coming up. Those guys will never think, okay? This is really what humans can do only. And this is very dangerous to one degree because we have to learn. We will still grow up as, children, and if we lose interest to learn because we can externalize everything to these nice robots, then we are lost. So this is, I think, to me, that's the biggest danger. We should actually now really start embrace AI to learn even more efficiently, in a better way. Yeah, they are our helpers, but we should really stay in the mood or keep up the mood to be curious about the world, and then I think those two elements will come together nicely. Okay, and we have already heard from Phil, for instance, also the human in the loop is a very important question, and we should look at this question a bit more precisely. So we all know, flywheels are the big goal. If the self-improving AI would ever work, then, we can go on holidays, wherever, and some of the tech pros are then trillionaires and whatsoever. But I don't believe this will ever happen, because in reality, what you see here is not the ultimate solution. This little flywheel is just the inner circle, we will see that in a second, which just explains the engineering part of the AI flywheel. And probably inside that, there are ways to automate things. But still, and I said that already during the taxonomy bootcamp, taxonomists, ontologists, and some already said taxologists, so I like that a lot, will become even more important. And I will show you why. Because things in this new reality haven't been simplified. No, they now just can embrace or address really complex business processes. So you really need to take a closer look how this flywheel now will be driven by humans. Yeah? Of course, we can automate a lot on the side where the graph is being constructed, because the graph obviously is a very important piece to mitigate a lot of risks. AI typically includes, and then obviously it's very important to benchmark and measure how such AI risks have been reduced. So for instance, hallucination is one of those, so that's the very important AI index report of Stanford University, showing the trends, how organizations now have started to look at AI risks in different categories, and obviously the reliability risk, that's number 2, if you cannot read that, has already this year reached 59%. The financial risks are completely went up from 12 to 50, so organizations get much more aware of obviously AI is important, but it has to be managed in a far different way we originally have thought about. Yeah? And a lot of those risks can be addressed with graph. So it starts from governance of data in the AI. You can control it in a far better way. There's no, let's say, black box symptoms anymore that much, and so on. So if you take an even closer look at all these AI risks, you see, starting from the foundational models, how they address all those. So there's different benchmarking frameworks like Helm Safety, AirBench, in that case AirBench 2024, and you see there's still a lot of risks out there. So the foundational models, obviously corporations cannot change that easily. So what's now available is to put the own data obviously next to the LLMs to help the LLMs stop hallucinate and understand the context and relationships between the, let's say, the business objects in a far better way. And this needs to be taken very seriously. AI needs more than just data, it needs domain understanding, and such business domain models cannot be created completely automatically. This is obviously in our heads. You cannot machines cannot learn from any existing resource. A relational schema doesn't reflect that. A text is not precise enough, so you really have to take a closer look at how to create such graphs, which then are driven mainly by ontologies and taxonomies to make that more or less automatically. I always say taxonomies and ontologies is about 1% of the enterprise knowledge graph. The rest of it, 99%, can be relatively automatically generated, but the first percent is the most important one because it informs the machines later on how to handle the data. Yeah, so knowledge graphs are the way moving forward. And in general, any RAG architecture has kind of a context engine included. So context, did I say content? Context included, and the context engineering is really something, I would say, a very important new task. We have done that for a while. Taxonomists, ontologists have done that, graph engineers. But the term context engineering is something which is also very helpful to explain to the, as we've seen, the upper management what we are actually doing. So probably stop talking ontologies or something like that. Just explain to the decision makers, we need context, we need relationships, and how can we manage that? And there are different ways to do that. There are RAG varieties. There's this simple one, this vector RAG, which does not really serve the business critical. I'm coming back to the really critical use cases. They need far higher precision. So vector RAG would not work. So we've seen in all over the places you need graph RAG. And there are also different varieties. Just to tell you, it's not just one version out there. There are many always. And if you make a decision which kind of graph RAG you need, you first have to take a closer look at the problem, the business problem. So here's one example. We did for a manufacturer of complex engines, compressor engines, and we've seen quickly, okay, vector RAG is really something we can far better, reach accuracies in terms of answering the questions correctly, and it didn't take long. So we just had to add a little bit of context by providing a graph describing their business domain, and went up quickly from about 30 to 80%. And now we will go productive in Q1. Obviously, that was an intermediary example or intermediary benchmarking. So to sum it up, we've got business critical problems on the left-hand side, and then we have several advantages when you do graph RAG on top. Like, for instance, domain-specific reasoning, or just the fact you can put a semantic backbone, a semantic layer on top of all the different silos, because typically, answers reside in fractions in different silos, so you need to link that together. LLMs cannot do that. Vectors cannot do that. You need a graph for that. Then the AI governance aspect is also important, and now with the upcoming multi-agentic frameworks, you need a semantic backbone even more than ever before. I give you another example. So EY, one of our biggest customers, has started with us to work about 2 years ago, and their strategic goal was to roll out a knowledge graph across their 300,000 people. And this is a massive project, as you can imagine, because the reuse of existing knowledge inside such corporations, if you make that work, you have such a competitive advantage to the others. And they were really clever. So the other of the big five, or is it 4 or 6, I never know, they don't have a knowledge graph. Yeah, they really thought, okay, we can do that with LLMs only, but it doesn't work. You need to set up a semantic backbone, first of all. And then you can do all this beautiful stuff on top, like graph RAG, hybrid RAG. You can really benefit from cross-border, multilingual, multidisciplinary, horizontal use cases. And I think the time is over where we should stay in silos. When we really want to address the complex problems, we have to work across silos. And there's no way to do that without knowledge graphs. So this is just a couple of slides EY provides also publicly. They explain quite in detail how they have started, where they are heading, and it's all, I would say, the right recipe. Now I come to the conclusion. Now this is the technical flywheel, but what we really need, and I think that resonates also to a large degree what Phil has said, we need to look at the entire pyramid. What can we bring in front of the decision makers on C-level? What would they like to hear? They are not interested in graph RAG. So they are obviously mainly driven by the question, how can we drive return on investment? How can we make AI trustworthy? How can we make sure the AI infrastructure we're building has a future? And there are many new roles now coming up. Like, for instance, I've said that already. I think taxologists are a great, let's say, species and a great community. And those people we always served, we want them to develop into roles like knowledge scientists. where they can start talking with the people on this outer flywheel, where probably the people are not so much into graph and technology and all that. So they're a very important translator between those two worlds. Data scientists are very important, even if they sit, as Phil has said, down in the base room. I believe they should come up some days and talk to our knowledge scientists, because they work together on that flywheel in the inner circle as well. So they do the benchmarking. They help to improve the knowledge graph as well. So I can talk about that obviously for days and weeks, but just to give you a first impulse, I think we should think in these two flywheels and stop just talking on the inner circle or the outer circle. We have to connect those. And just as a very last impulse, obviously we have tooling for that. We have an entire platform. A new feature is the taxonomy builder. That is something which helps really to create graph relatively automatically. We are not saying taxonomists are needed anymore, no, even more than ever before. It's just the productivity increases. You can start from document extraction or from automatic generation. It's a fusion of LLM and document and corpus analysis, obviously. It's all baked into the interface. Some of you probably have worked already quite a lot with, so that's the Pool Party Semantic Suite now becoming the Graphwise modeler. You can create taxonomies in bulk mode. You can generate entire taxonomies even via chat. So you can talk to the taxonomy, and that's a couple of screenshots only. So if you're interested in that, it's part of a bigger platform. The Graphwise AI suite consists of automation, modeling, semantic analytics, and GraphRag, where you can configure GraphRag applications in a kind of a workflow, agentic workflow style. There are lots of connectors downstream, upstream, so it's the most complete graph platform on the global market. It grounds LLMs. There's no other way to make LLMs work in critical processes. We believe you need domain-aware AI. You need AI you trust, and therefore you need AI-ready data and knowledge and content. Thank you very much.